Okay, so let's move on to the last boss, Dragons of Nightmare then. Dragons of Nightmare will be the next fun boss we'll do here. Why is my thing not working? Okay, so for those of you that remember back in Vanilla and BC-ish, right? We had our 4 little fun dragons. Had a lot of good times with these guys and the many races with other guilds trying to get these dragons. So these dragons are back. They're not in the Emerald Dream, it's the Emerald Nightmare. That's where they reside. It is a really, really cool place because there's actually portals. I can't really show you guys now because we don't have beta right now and don't have Emerald Nightmare, but there's actually portals to go to those places in that zone, and that's a mythic mechanic and an achievement later on where you go through a portal and you're in Hinterlands, like while you're in the raid, or you go through another portal into Duskwood or Ashenvale or Feralis. So you actually have to go through these portals on Mythic and kill an ad, or else you're going to wipe essentially. So it's a fun one. Let's pull it up. Pull up at Dragons of Nightmare here. Dragons of Nightmare is 116. So yeah, so when we did this last time, this was a normal raid by my guild. Most of my guild was there. We cleared 6 of the bosses in under 2 hours. So it's like one of those one night clears if you do things really well. What am I looking at? 116. There's a patroller there. And so yeah, those are the dragons right there. Got the weak aura as assigned. So during this encounter, you will deal with multiple dragons. Some will be up in the air, and some only use certain abilities in the air, and other use abilities when they're on the ground. Being dragons, like Nithendra, the first boss, it means 2 things. Number 1, tail whip. Don't stand behind the boss. Don't get tail whipped. Number 2, don't stand in front of the boss. Can we have a bathroom break? If you guys want, I can answer some questions if you guys want a quick bathroom break. And I'll go take a bathroom break really quick, and I'll answer some other non-dragon related questions. Go on your bathroom breaks. Sure, go for it. We'll just have to cut the video here, and we'll just do a separate section in the last half. So yes, what other questions you guys have that are non-dragon related? Holy Paladins, Devotion or Of Mercy, either one. Devotion. Can we have a bathroom break, Coach? Oh man. Okay. Thanks for being so great. You're very welcome, Smithers. Thanks a lot for being a sub. What do you think of Master Loot versus Personal Loot? In a raiding guild at this level, you should always run Master Loot because you are directing where the loot should go based off the biggest upgrade for your guild. For the average normal heroic raider, Personal Loot all the way. Like my Zeros to Heroes raids, most of them will and should be using Personal Loot. I have my water bottle ready. My the hell's happening to my headset? I need a new headset. It's falling apart now. I've been using it too much. And sweating. Okay. What days are the LFR group raiding? Pull it up on the forums. I can't remember. There's no real LFR group, but it's like Sundays and Mondays or 2 days or 3 days or whatever. So Light of Dawn circles out a weak aura. So this one here, yes, that is a weak aura. Where's Midgets? Midgets, are you around? Yeah, there's Midgets. Watch this. She's actually probably complaining about Nomi right now. But you see, look, I'm getting close to Midgets. She's going to pop it up in my circle. That is a mastery circle. So she could hit by my Light of Dawn here, but not here. Right? So doesn't give out my Light of Dawn. Whereas if I turn slightly this way, she will be. Let's give Light of Dawn a second here. Band-Aid hasn't broken 7.1. Yes, the radar will be anyway, and likely the other one there, and that one would hit her. So link to for the weak auras, but what is the one for the radius of the aura? So this one, this Holy Paladin weak aura is an add-on as well as a weak aura. It's called Band-Aid. Like they do amazing. Like the add-on author for this add-on has done really amazing things for priests and other classes as well, for range checkers. So this one shows my mastery benefit as well. Whoever's closest to me will gain the full benefit of my mastery, which is ideal, right? I don't really, like, honestly, I don't use it for healing. I think it's too many logic checks when you're healing. For having played as long as I do, I know how to sort of eyeball things really well when I'm looking at my raid frames. So it's more for the stream. You're very welcome, Audio. You're very welcome. What are the questions? What do you think would be the best target for Blessing of Might buff from Ret Paladins? Depends. It depends on the encounter. Demon Hunters, Rogues, whoever else is attacking the most, right? AoE encounters, the ones that will excel in AoEs too. personal loot will on average give you more loot on 40% of the encounters than master loot will. Show me the blue post again on that one. Show me the blue post on average more loot. The thing is, yeah, it could be more loot, but it could be shittier loot. The same could be said for master loot, but I give loot to my best DPS, or the ones that are going to affect the raid the most. Like here, like Victor says, like it doesn't really matter if you can't control where the loot goes. So like, yay, my healers are all getting buffed, but we can't kill the encounter. What your guild standards for enchanting and usables in the first week of raid, considering that these add-ons need a lot of mats for the basic raid materials? So Myth, great question. I mentioned this at the start of my raid, or start of my stream here, where we are super prepped for raiding. We're ready to go for much of the first tier. We've got millions of gold in the guild bank. This is only some of it here, but we have enchanting materials, gems ready to go, plenty of stuff, plenty of crit foods. All that stuff is being supplied by the guild bank, so my raiders really don't need to worry about it. Some like to do their own stuff, which is fine, but health pots, flasks, potions, DPS stuff, agility, strength, whatever, that's all there. Yeah, I got tons more herbs that we're using for, for cards or for whatever else. We've got decks and BOEs and more things and bracers and rings to give out. Lots of obliterum. We had like 1,000 plus obliterum that we gave out to our raiders to make sure everybody is, as well geared as I am. So yeah, it's a lot, Leslie. And congrats on your legendary, you lucky jerk. I saw that on Twitter. That Penny can go die in the fire. I know. I hate Nomi. I hate Nomi like a stupid jackalope. I hate him. Sparty, greetings. Hey, Striker, from Berlin, Germany. I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I learned so much from you again. Thanks for. You're very welcome. I love David Hasselhoff. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? A little bit. What's UI command? The UI command is UI. Okay, for aggression, what tanks do you prefer? Honestly, it depends on the encounter. So on some encounters, I'll prefer a Guardian or, a Warrior. On that fight like Cenarius, which we're going to cover tonight, I will prefer a Paladin and a Warrior. Probably some of the best ones, I think. That guild bank, it's super organized. You guys, midgets, super, crazy about organized about guild banks. Midgets, Roshi and Brandhista, like they've done an amazing job with the guild banks. We've spent 15 million gold gearing the guild, getting everybody ready for raiding. Between gear like this, like crafted gear. Some gear, like, Warforged, you don't need to replace it, so I didn't craft it. Things like Dark Moon decks, getting everybody ready to go for Heroic and then Mythic raiding. So it should be fairly smooth, depending on if everybody executes correctly. So yeah, we made 100 million gold in Hellfire Citadel. Why wouldn't we spend it? Like, what else are we going to do with our, with our 100 million gold? Besides make an army of spiders. Right? Again, makes sense. How do you feel about Shadow Priest in the top upcoming raids? Will they be used? Yeah, I think they'll be used. Again, it depends on the encounters, but I think they'll be... again, if you guys are asking questions, are reds viable? Are there any classes you wouldn't take? Sparty? Are there any specs you wouldn't take? Besides Disc Priests, which likely are... they're not intended to be a strong mythic candidate. But if you're playing in normals, heroics, any of that stuff... Every single class and spec is completely viable. Unless you guys are playing in a World like 50 setting, in which case you're probably not learning anything from the stream, then the answer is yes, you will be completely viable in a raid setting. You'll be totally fine. And I know people ask that question like, am I going to have a raid spot? Or are people going to kick me out of the raid? If I don't have a legendary, what's going to happen to my spot? If a guild's not going to give you a spot because you don't have a legendary, well, F that guild. Because legendaries are so goddamn ridiculous. Like, I've got 4 on my raid team. I've got like 8 casuals and retired players. Like, One Wolf just got one today. Who else has one? Etrotrix has got one. He's a retired player. Who else has got one? Jungle, I think Natoro will have one with 2 of my raiders. A bunch of just casual players or whatever have legendaries. If only 4 of my 27-person roster raid team have legendaries, and if they're saying legendaries are mandatory, well, your raid team's going to be 5 people. Congrats. It's ridiculous. Should I get a raiding guild after skipping World's Drainer? Well, I just need to unfortunately raid Normal Emerald Nightmare. Well, yeah, you'll get started there, and that's fine. And if you find it super easy, well, then you better excel. Get those logs, erotic, and yeah, you'll find it a heroic guild and a mythic guild after that. Doesn't this guy get tired of playing and talk about this game? Come on. No way. I love it. I love what I do here, programmer. I absolutely love it. I've got a passion for it. People learn so much from the stream and they get better. And don't you get tired of watching sports? Why do you even watch Twitch? Don't you get tired of watching people on the stream? Why don't you go play games yourself? No, I love it. Like, I've got a passion for it. Legend today, my best on shoulders for Shadow Priest. That's awesome. Now your weaker will work because I was fishing. Not sure why I was still shown from the Nomi. Oh, that's weird. There. Yeah. Yeah, see, that works. Perfect. That was weird that it showed in front of the Nomi. Okay, anyway, guys. So everybody's back in their bathroom breaks. Perfect. So let's carry on. Let's move on to the Dragon Boss then. Everybody's back. Okay, so we're going to move on to the Dragon Boss next. The Emerald Dragons. So we're going back to the Dragons. The Dragons of Nightmare. There are 4 bosses. You'll be facing 2 of them at a time, generally, while they're on the ground, dealing with different things. So Terror is really one of the easiest ones, I think. If you guys remember Terror from previous expansions, years and years ago, he basically had, again, Frontal Breath. He had a Fear. He had, he splits himself into different shades, the shades of terror here, and he has a Seeping Fog. The Seeping Fog is dispellable. It's basically a green cloud that floats around, and it puts you to sleep. Don't go near the green cloud. You're useless when you're sleeping, right? You want to be raiding. It's a raiding guild or a sleeping guild. It's a raiding guild. So what you want to do, and it only targets ranged or healers, is you want to put yourself in a good position, so you always drop them in a good spot. Thanks for the retweets, Miss Miggy and everybody else. Perfect. So you want to put them in a good spot, and we're going to place them in near a wall. So, for instance, if let's say let's say Midgets here is the dragon, right? She's the dragon right here. This big gnome, fire-breathing dragon. So what we're going to do is if I know the cloud is always going to land on me, I want to position myself in such a way that it's not going to be inconvenient for the rest of my raid. So the first cloud's going to land here, next cloud's going to land here, next cloud's going to land here, next cloud's going to land here, sort of like that. That's how you bait the sleeping clouds, and then they're not in the way, because my other team that is facing the other dragon is on this side over here. Right? They're over here. And if I were to drop all these clouds sort of in this place, well, it's really tough for our tanks to get through these clouds, and it makes it tough for the raid in general. There's a lot less potential space to move. You want to maximize how much space you have to move. So that's Lethon. Sorry, yeah, no, that was Terror. That was Terror. He does a Fear as well when he's flying. Again, some of these are normal and heroic mechanics. He does not do a Fear on normal difficulty. He just does his Shades and his Sleeping Fog, which you'll see during the video. Lethon used to do big Shadow Bolt volleys, basically in a 24 or in a 360 cone around him. Now he does other abilities. He does Ysandra's old ability where he'll spawn little things. He'll spawn little versions of the of players. You have to kill the players, otherwise he gets healed. And he does Gloom. He basically does a big Shadow Bolt circles on the ground. Don't stand in them. Very, very simple on the early difficulties. Ysandra. For Ysandra, you want to be spread out as much as you can because it does a Defiled Spirit, which will basically root you on the ground. If you are stacked in together, well, you're going to get exploded, and that's not fun. You can get rid of those vines or these roots either by a Magic Dispel or Hand of Freedom or, what is it called? The little gnomish escape artist things, or whatever else will remove you or get out of the root style abilities. Does Defiled Eruption as well, which explodes on the players. So again, it roots you, it vines you, and then it explodes after X amount of seconds. And Nightmare Blast is the other one that basically spawns a plant on the ground. And these plants are important because if these plants, and nobody's standing on these plants, they grow and they're strong. And when they're strong plants, they spawn little dread horrors. And these dread horrors are annoying little shits because, basically they fixate somebody, they go kill them. On higher difficulties, like heroic, these dread horrors, if they get near somebody, you do 50% less damage. So on normal, you should get in the habit of absolutely annihilating them. Or cause them not to spawn. So by standing on the Nightmare Bloom, you take damage, but no horrors spawn, which will likely be what you want to do on higher difficulties. Yeah, and that's Jesters in a nutshell. And again, dragons will always have a breath. Dragons will have a tail whip. And really the big ability here is the marks. If you guys remember the Mogushen Vaults boss, the dog bosses, with those dog bosses, basically if you got too many stacks, the entire raid would get frozen, and you want to sort of alternate how you dealt with the dogs. The same thing with these dragons. That is the main mechanic here. You'll want to be flipping the dragons around, not flipping your sides. So what's going to happen is, if I have two sides here, let's say, here, we'll draw you guys a picture. If I have tanks over here and tanks over here, so they're taking, one dragon on blue, one dragon on green. After, 7, 8 stacks of this debuff, as it gets higher and higher and higher, we want to bring the dragons to the middle, and the tanks will swap them at this point. So the green one will now be over here, and the blue one will now be over here. That way, my entire side here, my purple side, does not get does not get 10 stacks of the debuff, because you'll be sleeping forever. For 30 seconds, really. 30 seconds, you are out of the fight entirely, and I don't believe you can get out of it anyway. So it's also more and more damage each time. So you want to minimize how many stacks you get. That's pretty much it, and that's pretty much it. You basically want to watch your stacks, flip the dragons, and deal with each dragon's abilities. Emrys is the only other one. With Emrys, there'll be little mushrooms that spawn from the little ads that die. You want to make sure you interrupt the little ads that die, and don't stand near mushrooms which explode, right? Exploding mushrooms is bad, because I've done Dark Heart Thicket. The little mushrooms that just spawn and just annihilate you. Don't be near them. So I'll go through the fight here as we do Emerald, the dragons. There I was chugging what was I drinking? A Radler, a grapefruit Radler. It was delicious. Okay, let's see. When was the fight here? Dragons of Nightmare, 116. Let's go a couple minutes further. There's our ready check. So my groups, we split up into two groups. My group is on the orange side. I'm on the left side here. And you'll see what happens when you deal with these dragons. Let's go a little bit further. Our timer, perfect. So we have we got a fairly decent split of DPS right now, based off the guilds or the raid strengths. So I'm going to pull, and again, you want to make sure the boss is faced in such a way that you don't get tail whipped and you don't get breathed on. So this one here is Terror, the one that I first talked about. So we're going to bait the clouds. Where I'm standing is where my range group should be standing. Watch where the clouds will spawn. Some of those guys are out of position. So Terror, you see one stack of Terror there? That's how many debuff stacks I have. When it gets to 10, you are sleeping for 30 seconds, you're out of the fight. You cannot get to 10 stacks. So we're waiting here. I'm yelling at these guys to stack in with me. There we go, now they stack. And here comes the first Sleeping Fog. It's on us, that green puddle, and we shift to the left. And now the Shades have spawned. Basically, the tank picks them up, you cleave them down. They basically just do more breaths. Now another Sleeping Fog is going to start moving towards us. And does float around a little bit, so just watch where you position them, and we shift it again. Again, we're getting rid of that mechanic for the rest of the raid. The camera angles here are really wonky because there's so much crap up in the air. Now at this point, the tank should be turning the boss because, again, don't tank bosses facing your players. So we're at 5 stacks, we shift again, and we're just dealing with Terra's little fun abilities. Okay, now he flies up in the air, and the dragons actually switch. So Terror goes up in the air, we pick up Jesters. So what happens is the dragons will rotate through. So the other group had Jesters right now, and they were dealing with Jesters' abilities. We were dealing with Terror. Well, now Terror flies up, we get Jesters, and they get the new dragon to come down. So they are now dealing with Emrys, I believe. Yeah, it looks like Emrys. So now, there, where I'm standing right now, that is what the plant looks like. It's a little hard to see. But there, one Dread Horror spawned, kill it immediately. That is your DPS priority, especially as a ranged. So I'm standing in this debuff right now, and it says Soaking. I'm soaking. There's another Dread Horror, that red flower that just spawned. Let me go back a couple seconds. Okay, let's go back. So there's the Dread Horror. There's a big red beam, a pillar of light. That is when you know the plant or the tree is active. You want to make sure it is not active. So you take the damage, you soak it, use your personal cooldowns. You're tracking the debuff as a healer. Okay, Volatile Infection, that's an Emerus thing. So there's another Dread Horror. You see the big red pillar. Someone has to stand on it. Okay, so the tanks can stand on it. That's totally fine. Not a problem. So, again, we've placed the Sleeping Clouds in good position. We don't have to deal with them. Here comes Defiled Spirit. This is where you should be spread. Right? Somebody decided to stand there. There's another breath. Again, you want to be spread out as much as you can. There's Nightmare Blessed. There's another Dread Horror. And we communicate, right? Like, we communicate, hey, who's going to take this one? So I said, okay, fine, friggin' guys, I'll do it. So now I'm standing in it. And you have to be careful. So now Yasandra is at 6. The tanks are going to do a swap at this point. So Emerus is going to come over here. And Yasandra is going back to the other side. So I never leave my side. The tanks will just bring them to the middle and swap dragons. So now we're at 1 stack of Emerus. I'm still soaking my previous boss's abilities, right? Like that little flower until it goes away like now. You're still dealing with those abilities. Next is the Nightmare Blast. And on normal it is pretty simple because you're not really dealing with any or many of the air phase abilities because there are, if I could shift my camera down, you could see that there are dragons flying around and doing their own thing. So here are the essences that spawn. We kill those, and then there's mushrooms that would spawn afterwards. Now the dragons have swapped again. So now Yasandra and Terra again. So Terra is back on our side. He's the one that draws shades. And now my group, okay, well, what do we do for Terra? There's Shades and Sleeping Cloud. We're stacked in for Sleeping Clouds now. So we're going to beat the first one in about 3 seconds. And we're going to... in a sec here, there's a Shades. Now this is a really wonky one. So this needs to be very careful because right now Shades, and this was really bad timing. So Shades just spawned 3 mini dragons and the tanks decide to do a tank swap. So they may have to actually wait until the dragons spawn or switch them earlier. So right now it was a bad transition because you're dragging 3 other dragons around, the little Shades of Terror there. And it's going to be a tougher transition because it's more damage. Those things are not going to get killed. People pull threat. Tanks have to be very, very careful there. Okay, this is a really bad one. So look what happens here. Defiled Spirit on Indy, Natara, Rolo, Shuholo, and Smallwood. All of us got rooted. That was really, really bad. So because we were rooted, we were standing in place, and a big damage was coming down on us. We all had to shift out. We dispelled. We used our druid things, the hunter thing to get out. And now again on Yasandra, you want to be spread out because of Defiled Spirit. There's a Dread Horror. So again, Yasandra is a spread dragon. You are dealing with the flower, and you're spread out for Defiled Spirit. Simple. They all have like 2 or 3 mechanics for each one. Nightmare Blast. Again, that's for the other one. There's another flower to spawn. I'm standing on this one. Well, I want to run out. Well, look what happens. So this is how the mechanics interact. I was rooted because I was standing in on the thing there. So what can you do? What would you do? You got to brainstorm. Okay, so if I move, we're going to spawn Dread Horrors. But if I don't move, I'm going to take a lot of damage. Well, you could use a personal cooldown. You could use a bubble. I used my bubble at that point, and I decided, I think, to run back. Yeah, I decided to run back afterwards. So I should have just stood in there and taken the damage anyway to not spawn those little Dread Horrors. So we're going through it again here. Just a really wonky position by the tanks here, facing them towards us. But again, you have to watch those breath timers. And then we're going to switch again. Those green puddles are the clouds where they're spawning. Again, you want to always spawn them in a good spot. So we're going to shift everything over back to the orange side. You see Defiled Spirit on 4 people. They all were too close stacked together. So they all have to be dispelled. And I think they're going to get hit here. Maybe they got out in time. Again, spawning our clouds. People were not stacked on that one. There are now 2 puddles. It's less room to move for the next one. But that's pretty much it on a normal. It is a pretty straightforward one. Shades, spread, stack, whatever. For the most part, you can be spread on dragons. There's not a ton of advantage to being stacked in. Again, depending on which dragon. So some of the other heroic abilities, though, I'll go through some of the heroic ones here for you guys. So for some of the heroic abilities, when those guys are up in the air, Terra will do a fear. So when the other dragons are on the ground and Terror is flying, he gains a new ability. He won't be casting the Seeping Fog. He won't be casting Shades of Terror. He only casts these when he's grounded. He will cast Bellowing Roar. So he will fear the entire raid for 3 seconds, which sucks, right? So, Sparty, I'm getting feared into a Seeping Fog. Okay, well, fear unavoidable, right? Is Seeping Fog unavoidable? Yeah. Don't position yourself near a Seeping Fog and you will not get slept. With Lethon, he does his Shadow Burst when he's flying, so blows up the entire raid. Watch where you're standing, and it slows you as well. So again, stay spread out when Lethon is up in the air. Corruptions of the Dream. So when she's in the air, when Emerus is flying, when any of her allies die, they spawn mushrooms. Mushrooms, again, explode on the raid, to be careful. Again, you're really spread on this encounter for the most part. And then the last one is Yasandre. And, oops, what did I do there? And when Yasandre's in the air, I don't think she does anything different. No, yeah, she's the regular one, the one you're killing. So what questions do you guys have regarding the dragons? So move as a group as if you would like Lich King Frog, for example, with a sleep shit. Yeah, exactly. Move as a group. Especially when Terror is down, when he's doing his ground ability. Right, his Seeping Fog. You want to move as a group. You want to bait those in a good spot. What other questions here did you guys have? Let's see here, dragons. Is it best to have a healer stand in that? I don't know, it's up to you. Because Starks, I know I can do mechanics well, I decided to stand in it. I've got Divine Protection as well. Other classes could also stand in it. I would not have a melee stand in it. I mean, rogues could. There are many little immunities, except when you're having rogue soak or melee soaks from mechanics, they may not be able to reach the boss, so you may as well have a range do it. You know, warlocks with their cooldowns or mages or hunters even might be better to use. Do you place your Jester lock in the middle for easier cleave? We did do that on some of it, yes. So that's more advanced tactics or advanced things where we'd have our warlock in the middle. I don't know if we did it on this one. Was he running? Yeah, Jungle was. Yeah, on this one, Jungle was actually standing in the middle. Maybe I can see him here. He was actually DPSing both dragons and just watching his debuff timers. But yeah, he was doing a lot more damage. You can see the Warlock topping the meters there because of Havoc and that kind of stuff. So yes, in this situation, we did have him there. Is the order every week? See, I can't remember. I know I've talked to my officers about this as well. Does it rotate? I remember doing all the bosses. The thing is, I've done these on normal, heroic, and mythic. I'm confused as to which one it is. Is it the same every time? Is it different? We actually did not face Lethon at all, right? You guys noticed we didn't fight Lethon. He didn't come down at all. I can't remember, honestly, whether it's the same ones or not or whatever. The order changes every week. Yeah, I can't remember. Similar to, I guess, TOC. Remember how TOC would change the PvP battle? Anyway, I can't recall. How much is the cooldown on Red Feral's Gathering Clouds? Check in the logs. Here. I'm going to give you my logs. You check and find out if you know how to read logs. If you're not sure, then I'll help you out. Time for the big boss, yes, scenarios. And you, what other questions? Will be available through your VODs? Yeah, always available through VODs and YouTube as well. Correct, Pringles. Halfus and Bastion of Twilight. Yeah, like Halfus, that's another great example, yes. Halfus is another good one. So again, whenever we're looking at new bosses, we try to compare them to old bosses as well. You have a cleave for the win, for sure. Any other questions about dragons? Dragons, I mean, it's dragons. It's normal, heroic, it'll be fine. It's not a very difficult one. It'll come down to the tanks and you guys standing in the right spot. That's it. It's not a huge DPS check at all. It's not that bad for healing. It's more of a positional encounter. If you're standing in the right spots, then you will do the right things. Like, you'll not take additional damage. You won't, hurt your healers or your DPS. So just don't screw your raid over. And then, of course, your raid weak auras. So let's pull up our raid weak auras for Dragons of Nightmare. Let's click our weak auras here. And we're going to copy. And we're going to import our weak auras right there. There we go. And so you can see here in my, where is it? Sorry. Dragons of Nightmare. So these are my Dragons of Nightmare weak auras. The 4 dragon types. You know how many stacks I have, whether I'm being slept, whether I need to spread, whether I'm soaking the again, I can't remember. If you don't remember names of things, that's totally fine. Soaking the plant with flour. The less damage one is if there's a little horror next to you. The rooted if you're rooted. If the fear is incoming or if you're feared. And then the big burst from Lethon as well. Okay, cool. Yeah, so other questions, guys, can ask or can wait until later. I'm not going to stop this one. Not stop the train here of bosses. All right, so we're going to move on to the other bosses after this, since there's no other Dragons questions. So again, the first boss, Nathandra, you do. The next 4 you do in whatever order you want. Then you do Cenarius and then Xavius in the end. Cenarius is a fun fight, very complicated. Xavius, just as complicated as well. See if I have any more diagrams for you guys for those encounters. Dragons here. Let's see if I have any fun pictures that Bran made. Positioning. Oh man. So Bran made some awesome pictures. Some really amazing pictures like this. If you're on the left side, how to move, you know, the Shadow Blast area, the range stack. So for every single boss, what do you do? Where do you drop off things? So that's what we do there. And then, of course, we have this one here. Look at Bran, one of my raid leads. What awesome pictures. So on Terror, right, when I started, the range stack had poisoned the bait this way. That's on the left side because that was my side. While we dealt with Lethon, you are spread out. With Ysandra, you're spread out. With Emrys, you'll have a range stack. And on the right side, you do pretty much the opposite thing. So I'll share these things with you guys as well, in case you want those. There you go, and there you go. Perfect. Yeah, anyway, good little diagrams by Bran, one of our raid leads. All right.